All right, folks, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into the messy world of trade wars and tariffs. In simple terms, a tariff is like a tax on goods coming from another country. Let's say you're Canada and you're really good at making maple syrup, because, well, you are. You want to sell this glorious syrup to the US of A. Now, the US, in its infinite wisdom, might slap a tariff on that sweet nectar. This makes Canadian maple syrup more expensive for Americans, encouraging them to buy American-made syrup instead, which, let's be honest, is a tragedy for everyone involved. The whole point of a tariff is to protect domestic industries by making foreign goods more expensive. The hope is that people will buy local. However, as with most things in life, there are consequences. These tariffs can lead to higher prices for consumers, and that's when things get sticky. Remember, we're not just talking about maple syrup here. This impacts everything from cars to clothes to the very phone or computer you're using to read this right now. Now, when a country imposes tariffs, the other countries don't just sit back and take it. They retaliate, often by slapping tariffs of their own on a whole other bunch of goods. It's basically a giant, messy economic food fight, and nobody wins. Now that we've got the basics down, let's talk about what's been happening lately. Former President Trump, a man known for his delicate touch and nuanced approach to diplomacy, that's sarcasm, folks, decided to slap some hefty tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico, and China. We're talking 25% on goods from Canada and Mexico, and a whopping 10% on top of an already existing 10% on Chinese imports. His reasoning? Well, according to him, these countries weren't doing enough to stop the flow of illegal drugs, particularly fentanyl, into the US. Now, while the opioid crisis is a serious issue, many experts argue that tariffs are about as effective as using a fly swatter to combat a hurricane. These tariffs, my friends, are a big deal. We're talking about over $1.4 trillion worth of goods, which represents a huge chunk of US imports. This is like taking a sledgehammer to the global economy and then being surprised when everything starts to crumble. As you can imagine, Canada, Mexico, and China weren't exactly thrilled about these tariffs.
Canada retaliated with tariffs on $100 billion worth of U.S. goods, with plans to extend that to $125 billion.
Mexico is also gearing up for retaliation, and China has already imposed tariffs on U.S. food, farm goods, and various other measures targeting American companies. The ripple effect of these tariffs is already being felt across the globe. Stock markets have taken a nosedive, and economists are warning of a potential recession. Remember that whole sticky situation with higher prices? Yeah, that's happening.
Experts predict that consumers will soon be paying more for everything from cars and electronics to food and fuel.
And if all of that wasn't enough, there's another layer of complexity to this global mess. The US, under the current administration, has decided to pause military aid to Ukraine following a tense meeting between President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. This decision, coupled with Trump's recent comments criticizing Zelensky, has left many in Europe feeling uneasy. The US has been the largest provider of military aid to Ukraine, and its absence leaves a significant void.
While European Commission President von der Leyen has pledged increased defense spending, it remains to be seen if Europe can fully fill the gap.
This situation is incredibly delicate and the stakes are high. The war in Ukraine is a tragedy that has already caused immense suffering, and the potential consequences of reduced US support are difficult to overstate.
As global tensions rise and economic uncertainty looms, one thing is clear. The world is watching, and the decisions made in the coming days and weeks will have far-reaching consequences.